I think we're really excited here at Ipsos MORI about the opportunity to talk about some of the work we're doing on big data, and in so doing, to explore the role that market research has, and as Steve says, to go beyond the V's of big data. And I think also building on Colin's overview of how market research unlocks the power of big data, what we want to do is we want to use one example that Ray just touched on, the example of how market research and how the usual skills of a market researcher harness this power. But within it, I think we're drawing on a couple of hidden agendas, which obviously are now not going to be so hidden. I think the first one is that in many ways, for us as researchers, this is very much business as usual. The second hidden agenda is that while it requires many standard skills of a researcher, it does require new ways to display those capabilities. As Colin touched on earlier, and as many other major and innovative agencies will know, the big data experience in a research company can fall into, in our opinion, three broad camps. The first camp is the area of big surveys, whether that's layering different sources from surveys, but also social media monitoring and passive data collection together. The second camp that our big data experience falls into, as also touched on by Colin, is running segmentations over client data and client databases, which is often unstructured. And the third of which is finding the gold and the insight in third-party data. Now, this is a journey for us, which I think as an industry we may be at the start of, but the journey can follow a very similar route. Many of the stages along the journey and inside every project are very familiar to us, though we may need new capabilities and particularly thinking to make it a success. I think every project that we've worked in big data at Ipsos MORI that has been a success has required four skill sets. One of which is a data analyst or a statistician. Another one is some technical understanding or systems understanding. The third one, which in my opinion is often the most crucial for success, is researchers. And the fourth one would be data visualization. Just checking I have control of the slides. Okay, I might have clicked that too many times. So when it comes to big data and finding insight and meaning from big data, EE, as a leading digital company, really do have much of the assets that's required, if not all of it. As the leading mobile operator in the UK, they have 27 million mobile customers, and also many hundreds of thousands, if not a million, broadband customers. So much so that they create 1 billion rows of data per hour. Within the organisation, they have teams or a team of excellent analysts who've got extensive and creative ideas about what can be used to extract meaning from their own data sets. So really, they've got a great big start in how to find insight from big data. So it sort of leads to why have they been working for us for nearly 2 years or 18 months? Well, really in brief, our role in the relationship is to interpret the question, the client question or the need. It's to find the best methodology to answer that question. And in so doing, it's the same process as always. It's to refine the sample. And then once the project is complete, it's to interpret. And such topics that we've touched on already, such as correlation, isn't causation. But bringing that really in briefer and short, we bring market research rigor to ensure that Nate Silver's concerns that we touched on earlier on about more errors are partly solved. I think as we run through the examples that we showed today, I just would like to stress that each and every example and every piece of analysis we have done has not identified any personally identifiable information, as each activity that we've looked at has been based on a large group or a large sample of people. When Ipsos was founded in 1975, Ipsos was founded with a charter. A central tenet of that charter is to find the best methodology for every study. However, for researchers at the coalface, using a new methodology requires a leap of faith. And in every project that we have run, it's the colleagues who are prepared to do a leap of faith into a new approach that we owe our lives to. To help them make that leap of faith, we need to provide them with the confidence. Now, this is a very simplified brief process, and protect the innocent, but also to keep your attention. In this specific brief that came in here as the example, many briefs are prescriptive, and in a competitive marketplace it would be easier for the researcher receiving the brief to stick with the norm. Even in this situation, it's clear to all, even the client, that few consumers would recall their browsing behaviour while at a football match if the events were recalled afterwards. I often give the example that I can never remember that driving from the station to the office I might use search the mobile web, but never would I admit to it and never would I remember what I searched on. Through the use of mobile metrics is one of the 5 key areas where we have been working with EE to use their big data to unlock answers that previous methodologies can't. In short, at any specific location, EE can identify the volume of people present carrying a phone, the demographics of those people who are carrying the phone, and their use of mobile web and apps. So going into a little bit more detail in terms of identifying what people's web behaviour or web activity is at a sporting game, and the idea behind the brief is to identify the possibilities to market to those people. I'll just run through an example of how we did it. Now, admittedly, a dashboard mock-up doesn't make a great webinar chart, for which I apologise, but I'm just using it as a simple explanation of the process. So the very first step in any location-based study is to map out the location that you're interested in. So it's the area surrounding Goodison Park in this example. Once we have mapped out the area, we can identify the discrete mobile or cell numbers that are being used or are present in that area at that time. Again, I'd like to stress that all of these, for research, for our purposes, are anonymized. From that information, we can pick up the demographics, the age, and the gender. So in this example, it might not be surprising that there are twice as many males as there are women inside the park. We can also pick up from mosaic data or similar the profile or segments of the people involved, or from their past behaviour, we can begin to build algorithms about their interests. What we're also able to do is identify the web use that those people have made. Now, I understand that the chart might be difficult to read. The grey bars represent the web behaviour of the nation during the period of time. The blue bars represent the behaviour of those at the game in question. It might not be surprising that the second area along highlighted, there is 1,000% over-index of people viewing sport on the web at a football match as opposed to the national average. It may also not be shocking that there's 150% over-index of people viewing news. But the granularity of the data becomes more powerful because what we're able to do is we're able to identify the time that people hit specific sites for advertising purposes. So we're able to advertise which sites people visit before the game, which sites people visit during the game, and which sites people visit after the game, and where they then go on to from there. What has been critical for us to help our researchers make the leap of faith into new approach is when we build a proof of concept is to have case studies which are quite close to the exact approach. One of the challenges, of course, is that 99% of client-specific case studies remain confidential to that client. So this internal case study showing data that taken on the final day of the 2012 Six Nations Rugby Championship. For anyone listening from outside of Europe or from North America, rugby is very similar to American football. It's just played by men. Taking the data from here and what we're able to show using the same process as in the previous football example is the journey people have taken to the ground and who made the journey. So as an example, in the bottom left-hand corner of your screens, we can show where the people who've made the journey to the Millennium Stadium and where the people who've made the journey to the Twickenham Stadium work by where their cell phones were the previous day. So 37% of the people at Millennium Stadium in Cardiff, where Wales were playing France that day, worked in Cardiff. Whereas 5% of those who work in, of those who are in the Twickenham Stadium, who work to watch England versus Ireland, work in West London. Now the key thing that we can also do is identify the journey that people have made to the ground. So when we were looking at the people that we found inside Twickenham Stadium, the 30,200 discrete numbers that we picked up, we were able to identify that 7% of those phones had been used in Cheltenham that morning. Cheltenham is a small town in the west of England. So using the old adage, if it's interesting, it's definitely wrong, we looked more closely at the behaviour in Cheltenham and we explored what those 5,000 people were doing, the majority of whom had been at the Cheltenham Racecourse. On the 17th of March, there wasn't any racing at Cheltenham Racecourse. However, the previous day had been the Cheltenham Festival. The Cheltenham Festival is very popular amongst Irish sport fans, as is England versus Ireland at Twickenham on St Patrick's Day. So we could clearly identify that 5,000 people had, or over 5,000 people had attended both events. Also, the ability to track people's movements or journey to the ground enabled us to spot advertising opportunities, such as one opportunity is 2% of those people at Twickenham had actually stopped and made a telephone call while in front of the advertising hoardings at Waterloo Station. As well as identifying the journey that people have made, we're also able to look at who made the journey. We're able to pick up the age from the telephone contracts or the insurance details of the people owning the mobile phone. We're able to look at their recent use of websites or social media, what operating system their phone is on, and we can merge that data with other data sources, such as, for example, from Mosaic data, which pulled out a strong comparative between the rugby fans in the Twickenham Stadium, with the two top Mosaic groups being Suburban Comfort and Urban Intelligence, in comparison to those in the Millennium Stadium, where Ties of the Community and Happy Families were the top two segments. Another approach where the mobile operator data is proving very successful is in live population. This is a simplified piece of reporting where the client brief wants to see the draw of central London versus other great British cities. So what we were able to do was identify the journeys people had made and who had made those journeys. But it does mean we need to push ourselves on how to show the results. In this case, the strength of the bar represents the strength of the people coming from specific regions. So in the example of Manchester, it clearly shows that most people shopping in Manchester over this period of time had come from the northwest of England. In the case of Edinburgh, it clearly shows that the majority of people shopping in Edinburgh at this period of time, or in the centre of Edinburgh at this period of time, had come from Scotland, neither of which is surprising. But when we look at Oxford Circus, what it actually shows is the most popular areas that people shopping in Oxford Circus is not actually London, but it's the southeast and the northwest. We use these same approaches on a micro level for applications in transport, local government and also retail to bring insight about the behaviour of consumers on a large scale. Another great use of this, as similar to the sports example shown earlier, is to look at web commerce and web behaviour. So in this example, we have identified the web behaviour of people close to Oxford Circus in the centre of London. This is some early stage work that we've done on shopping behaviour. We found that 24% of customers in the area were using mobile web and apps. 7% of all customers were using the mobile web for commerce-based activities. The most popular web uses, of course, in most areas that we've used are either search or social networking or news. We also found that nearly 5% of people were using m-commerce only sites such as Amazon or eBay, and 2.5% of people shopping were actually using physical retailer sites. Unfortunately, in this example, it's never been the 2.5% using retailer sites while shopping which has stuck in anyone's minds. We also found that on this particular Saturday, 391 people while in Oxford Circus went on LinkedIn and focused on their careers, while 364 had other interests and visited the Pornhub website. The approach that we've used as researchers in every area is unlocking further potential. We've built now 5 concepts that we're working with clients on, but in each separate area where we have worked, the researcher's approach has been quite similar. Firstly, it's to get a clear understanding of the client's question involved, whether that's to find new insight or to answer a very specific question. The second one is through using the concepts and refining the concepts that we have developed is to find the best methodology to do so. And then the traditional research approaches of refining the sample and interpreting the results begin to kick in. And I think that gives a broad example of some of the uses that we've found for big data from one data source.